Let's smash a LeetCode algorithm. Today, number 1365. How many numbers are similar? How many numbers are smaller than the current number? So we're going to be given an array of nums, and for each number, find out how many numbers in that same array are smaller than it. That is, for each nums I, you can count the number of valid j such that j is not I and nums j is less than nums I. And here's our example. We get a couple of examples, but let's take this 8, 1, 2, 2, 3. We should get an output array that says 4 because there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 numbers smaller than the 8. The 1 is 0 because there's 0 numbers smaller than 1. Both 2's get a 1 because there's only one number, the number 1, that is less than 2. And then the 3 will get 3 because there are 3 numbers that are less than 3 in the array. And in the description, they give you a little bit of a hint of where to start. And we're going to do that solution first. We're going to use a double looped array, one loop with j, one loop with I. And that will be our first approach. And then I want to show you another way to do it, which is a little less intuitive, but is a nice solution. And I might show you 3 solutions today if we have time. So let's get going. Let's do some pseudocoding. So we're going to want to create an array, an output array, because that is what we're going to return. Create output. And then we're also going to want to return output array. And then in between, we're going to loop over or iterate the nums array that we're going to get here. To get a hold of each number. So the outer loop is going to go over each number, and then we're going to iterate over nums again to check the first number against all the rest. If the first and the second numbers are not the same, and the second number is less than the first number, we want to push into the results array, the output array, an incremented number. And we'll see that we're missing one little step, and that is to initialize our array. But let's run this first, and then we'll see what the issue is, and we'll fix it. So let's create an array, and we can call it output. Why not? Empty array. And then we need a for loop. Do we have? No, we don't have shortcuts here. So our first array is going to have an index of I starting at 0. And we're going to go over the length of nums. And we're going to increment for the loop. And we need another loop with j as its initialized index. And j is going to be less than nums length as well. And then we're going to increment j. So this needs to go in here. this probably goes, ooh, right there. Okay, so now we're on the if part. So if, let me tab this over maybe. Oh, okay. If so if the first and the second numbers are not the same, and so if nums I is not the same as nums j, and the second condition that we want to meet, and where's my ampersand? There we go. And nums j, the second number, is less than nums I. Then we want to push into our output array. So this will go in here and tab it over. So this is where the issue comes up, is that what we want is to be able to increment a number that's in the array, but our array is empty. So that means that we haven't initialized any positions inside of this array. So if we try to push, like, what, 1, then we would just get 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 for as many numbers are that meet these conditions. And that's not what we want. We don't want an array full of 1s. We actually want to count how many of num i's are greater than our num j's. So what we need to do is initialize our array here. So I'm going to initialize our array, which means that we're going to do output, and we're going to actually create a position here. And if we want, we can console log it. Output I, and there is our console log. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to say output I plus equals 1. Output I is going to be initialized to 0 initially. Okay. And so what we're going to do is at that position, we're going to have a 0 initially, and then we're going to increment it by 1 each time that there is a number. That the number that we have, num I, actually qualifies in this case. And then at the very end, we want to remember to return our output array. Okay, let's run this solution and see what mistakes we made. Oh, I misspelled the return, because it's hard to talk and type at the same time. Let's try that again. Okay. So here is our input, and here is our output I, which we console logged when it was 0. So we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions with zeros. And then we counted how many, and that is how many numbers were less than that number. And that's what we expected. So we did good. Let's console log the output here. I think that's a good place. So I'm going to move this console log from there to here. That way we can see the output actually incrementing, and that'll be fun. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the 8, and then we go to the 1, and there is none, so it doesn't console log because there are no numbers less than 1. So then we go to the 2s, and there's 1 for the 2, and then there's the 1 for the second 2, and then we go to the 3, and there's 1 and 2 and 3 for the 3s. So that's how we get to these numbers. So now I'm going to close this out so that I can kind of clean up my answer a little bit. I'm going to remove these pseudocodes. And the console log as well I'm going to remove. There's an extra space here. And then this also can go. Okay, so now we can see a little bit better. I'm going to double check that I've put in my semicolons because I tend to not put them in at this point. So that looks good. Let's run it again, make sure we haven't messed anything up. It still works, and let's go ahead and submit it. Okay, 76 ms. It's faster than 72%, even though it's a double for loop. It's a pretty straightforward kind of algorithm. So now, before I move to the second solution that I want to show you, I want to show you within the solution a better way to do this. Of having to then initialize it and then incrementing it. So another way we could have done this that would save us this step right here is to initialize our output array here by creating an array and then using our array constructor, which then takes the number of positions that we want to make it. So nums.length. And then we can fill that array with zeros. So at the very start, let's console log it. We're going to have an output array that has all the positions that we need, and they will all be initialized to 0. So let's go ahead and run this, and you'll be able to see this array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions, and they are all zeros. That way, we don't have to make that extra step of initializing it with 0, and we can increment it right away. So that is a slightly nicer way to do it.